I think I can safely say for most car guys, the ultimate dream for us is to fly across the country, buy a car you've always dreamed of owning, and driving it thousands of miles home. Honestly, I don't think there's a better way to get to know a car than doing exactly this. You spend so much time in this car that you get to know every little thing that you like and dislike about it. And by the time you finish the trip, you'll have a laundry list of things that you want to fix or change. This is something that I've always dreamed of doing, and when the opportunity came up, I absolutely took it. Before we get into the road trip itself, I think it's important to talk about how I even got to the trip in the first place. And I'll be honest, planning and coordinating this trip was actually a huge pain in the ass, and it all started with finding the car. Now, those of you that have been subscribed to me for a while already know that I have the exact same car that I just bought. And you might be asking yourself, why would I go buy the exact same car and drive it 2,500 miles across the country? If you are asking yourself that question, let me explain. So this is my 2001 Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS. Mechanically, this car is in perfect condition. However, the problem is this right here. So unfortunately for me, this car came from up north. I believe it was in Pennsylvania for most of its life. So the car does have rust, but the main rust is obviously in the quarters and the rockers. So I sat down and kind of did some numbers and some math to kind of figure out how much this car was going to cost me in the long run to get it up to the point where I was happy with it. So I did all the math and I kind of came up with a number around $15,000 is what it would cost me between my time, the labor that I put into doing all this body work, paying somebody to paint the car, because obviously I'm not a painter, I'm not even a body guy, but somehow I've managed to kind of do it. And $15,000 just seemed like a little bit too much for me. So once I realized all of that, I kind of got on Marketplace and started looking for a new one, because I figured if I could find a new car that was in really good condition for less than 10 grand, in the long run, I would save a lot more money than what I was gonna spend on this car. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of sentimental attachment to this car, but at the end of the day, I need to do what is most effective for my wallet and my time, and obviously my patience, because I've found out that I do not like doing body work. I'm not a big fan of welding, and I just didn't really want to do it anymore, to be honest with you. That was the main reason for trying to buy another one. So with all that out of the way, the next step, find a replacement car. So the only place I know to go and look for stuff like that is obviously Facebook Marketplace. Now, a lot of you might be thinking to yourselves that finding a replacement car would be the easiest part of this journey, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. For starters, finding a 1998 to 2001 2.5 RS is already extremely hard to do because they only made 14,109 of them. Not only that, but my searches narrowed down even more because I wanted a coupe specifically, and there were only 8,816 two-doors made. To make my situation even more complicated, the car had to be in the specific color, which is called Sedona Red Pearl, a color that was only offered in 2000 and 2001, and only 1,349 cars, both sedan and coupe, came in this color. And you might as well cut that number in half for sedans and coupes, and then cut it in half again for the number that came in automatic or manual, and I was looking for a manual specifically. Essentially, I was searching for a 1 of 350 car, and given how easily these cars rust and how many of them were potentially sent to junkyards over the years, you might as well cut that number in half again. So that leaves us with 170-ish cars in the United States, and here I am trying to find just one of them for sale. Out of those 170-ish cars, who knows how many of them are actually in good condition and running and driving enough to drive 2,500 miles across the US. I was basically searching for a needle in a haystack, and I was searching for a while. Fortunately for me though, I'm a part of a very large Facebook group dedicated to this body style of Impreza, and when this car popped up for sale, a few people who knew I was looking for one tagged me on the for sale post, and I shot a message over to the seller. And this is where things got extremely complicated. Imagine you're selling a car and some stranger messages you and basically says, "Hey man, I see you're selling this car. I live in South Carolina and I want to fly out to you in Reno, Nevada to buy this car and drive it 2,500 miles home." Besides him thinking that I'm crazy, he probably thought that there was no way this could ever work out. And in his defense, it would have been much easier to sell to someone local
and finish the sale within a couple of days rather than wait at least 2 weeks for me to plan a trip out there. But for some reason, after a lot of back and forth negotiating, the seller finally trusted me enough and agreed to sell me the car. So I put a deposit on it, bought a plane ticket, and patiently waited until it was time to start my journey.
Okay, so not how I was planning on kind of doing an introduction to this video, but I did a bunch of filming this morning and I realized that I did not have my microphone plugged into the camera. So all of that is basically useless. Anyways, to recap, I hopped on a plane in South Carolina yesterday, flew all the way to Reno, Nevada, 2,500 miles away, and I bought this. So this is a 2000 Subaru Impreza 2.5 RS, and this is essentially my realistic dream car. So I flew out west, bought this car, picked it up this morning, met the previous owner, super nice guy. He hooked me up with a ton of parts. This car has a ton of stuff on it, and essentially, I'm about to drive it 2,500 miles back home to South Carolina. Now, I know what you're thinking. Are you dumb? Yes. 23-year-old car, it has 181,000 miles on it. Is this a good idea? No. Am I gonna try and do this? Yes. Car drives good. It's in amazing condition. I've got to hit the road. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. I've made zero progress today. I'm still in Reno, and I have like 5 days to make it back home. 4 or 5 days to make it back home. So it's time to get going. So far in the middle of nowhere, Nevada, and honestly it is beautiful out here. There's mountains everywhere. Some of them have snow on the top of them. I mean, it's really a beautiful state. It just kind of got me thinking a little bit. Obviously the goal for this trip was to check something off the bucket list, go out, buy a car that I would consider a dream car, fly out all the way across the country, buy it, and drive it all the way back home. It just kind of got me thinking. My whole goal for this was to just film and make a video and have something that I can look back on in the future and kind of remember this moment in my life. But one thing that I'm realizing is it's super tough to kind of try to balance making a cool and interesting video with just kind of living in the moment and experiencing this, you know, and just being there. So the whole time while I've been driving the 133 miles that I've gone so far, I've kind of been like, oh, I feel like I haven't filmed that much. I need to stop and
do this and do that. And then on the other hand, I'm like, just relax, enjoy the ride, look at these beautiful mountains, and, you know, just go with the flow. Just kind of a random thought that I had while I was driving. As far as the car goes, so far so good. The only issues that I've had, the ABS light came on when a little bit outside of Reno. I was maybe 20 miles into the trip. Not a huge concern. The plan now is to kind of just, every time I stop for gas, look over the car, make sure nothing's rattling loose, check the oil, check all the fluids. Fluids are good so far. Everything, I mean, the oil hasn't dipped down any. I can't really check the coolant because the car's hot. But other than that, I haven't had any issues. The next destination really is Salt Lake City, Utah. So it looks like, based off the map, I'm going to be driving across the Salt Flats, which is super cool. I've always wanted to see that. And we'll be going into Salt Lake City and checking that out. So that's all I got for right now. And see you guys shortly. Alright, so it is currently 10:43 p.m. I made it about 400 miles today. Left around 3:30, and then now it's 10:30. I think I stopped for gas twice. I'm trying not to let the car get below half a tank, just because obviously I don't know the areas that I'm traveling, so I just want to make sure that I don't end up running out of gas somewhere. And so calling it a night here, just kind of want to go to sleep early so I can wake up a little bit earlier and get a lot of miles in tomorrow. And also, we're right before Salt Lake City. I'm right on the border of Nevada and Utah, and I kind of don't want to drive through the Salt Lakes in the middle of the night. I'd rather wake up in the morning when it's bright, get to see all that during the day. Unfortunately, my plan is to sleep in the car because I really don't feel like spending a ton of money every night on hotels and stuff like that. Made good progress today, happy with the progress. Nevada was absolutely beautiful. I'm glad I got to see this state and see all the mountains. Tomorrow, we'll get to see the Salt Flats, and hopefully I can bring you guys with me. So we'll see you in the morning. Damn, 8:23 a.m. Slept in the car last night at a truck stop. I probably fell asleep last night around 11:30. Woke up at 7:30. Surprisingly, sleeping in this car was actually pretty comfortable. I had like a sleeping bag set up. I had my seat laid all the way back. Had a pillow. It wasn't that bad. So I just checked all the fluids, topped up with gas, got some breakfast. And then today we're gonna be going through Salt Lake City and the Salt Flats. So that should be pretty cool. So looking forward to it. But I'm gonna finish my breakfast and we are gonna hit the road. So I'm driving through the Salt Flats right now, and I just saw somebody pulled off onto the Salt Flats. I really want to do that. I really want a picture of this car on the Salt Flats. The problem is the person that I saw off on it, they were in a Jeep, a little bit taller than this car. This car has STI pink springs, a lot lower than stock. Just looking for maybe a good spot to pull over. And I might just do it up here and just drive down until I see somewhere that maybe I could pull off. I mean, I see tire tracks all out there, so people are going out there. I'm gonna get out right here and go look. Look at this. I can 100% get down right here. This is about the best spot that I'm gonna find, so. Look at that mountain out there. Man. Well, I don't know if this is frowned upon to go out here, but I'm gonna do it because you only live once, and this would be the sickest picture ever, and I'm probably never gonna get to see this again, so we're gonna do it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I sunk pretty good right there, and I am a little bit worried about getting back out, not gonna lie to you. I bottomed out pretty good over here, which I kind of expected, but I think if I come up like this, man, that's like, it's kind of like mud and sand under here. I think if if I just get some speed and go, I'll be all right, but it's gonna rough up the underside a little bit, but I don't really have a choice now. I probably should have stepped out here and felt if it was soft before I did it, but too late. So we're committed now. Now we just gotta see if we can get out. This stuff is pretty thick. Look at the tires, they are just covered in shit. Oh God, I'm a little worried, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Salt flats. Not gonna lie, that was pretty scary. I didn't really take into consideration how deep it was, like right there where it's all piled up. So when I went down, the car just kind of sank at the rear end, and I mean I made it out of that fine, but going out I was a little worried because I didn't want to get stuck. The hill coming up is pretty steep. But I just gave it some gas, found the flattest spot possible, and sent it right up the hill. That was a pretty cool experience, to say the least. I'm glad I did it, now that everything's good. I wasn't very glad that I did it once I was out there, but now that we're back on the road and good to go, that was awesome, man. I got some really good pictures, you know, something that I'll probably never get to do again. And I'm glad that I was able to do that. It was pretty cool. I'm not doing that shit again, I can tell you that right now, but I did it. It was cool. And we're on our way. Out of Utah, probably got another 100 miles until we've completely crossed the state. Well, actually, we're like 30 miles until we're out of Utah. As you can tell in the background over here, seeing some pretty crazy stuff, some stuff that I've never seen before. I think the closer I get to like Tennessee and Kentucky, everything will start looking normal again, and the trip won't be as exciting. Once we're back to what's normal, it'll probably be a drag, so who knows? Only one way to find out, so just gonna keep on driving. Alright, so it is day 3, about 9 a.m. I woke up about an hour ago, filled up with gas, checked all my fluids, got some breakfast, and we're about to hit the road again. We have about 1,190 miles left to go. I got a pretty good chunk done yesterday. I spent last night driving through Nebraska. Obviously couldn't see anything because it was dark, so I don't really know what the state is like so far. Flat. We're about to get on the road and check it out and see what it's like. So this is the part that I was talking about where I feel like the trip's gonna kind of get boring, and not be interesting anymore because it's starting to look more like home. There's a lot of trees here, so yeah, we're gonna see how it goes. I'm just gonna drive and see how far we can get today. So far so good. No other real issues with the car. Well, it started having this issue where like I would go to pump gas, I'd turn the car off. When I would get back in it, push clutch in, turn the key, nothing. I would just push clutch in, turn the key, and everything would stay on power-wise, but it wouldn't start. So I started thinking that, you know, maybe it has something to do with the clutch, neutral safety switch, something like that. And then I decided to look at the VIN plate, the one that's up on the shock tower, and ran the transmission code. Come to find out, this used to be an automatic car, which is a huge bummer because I'm a little weird about stuff like that. I definitely prefer things to be all original. I really wanted this car to be all original, untouched, you know, whatever. And to find out that it's an automatic car kind of sucks. I would have preferred for it to be an original manual car, and honestly, if I would have known about that, I probably wouldn't have even bought it. But we're here now, gonna make the best out of it. It's really not that big of a deal. Everything's starting to make sense now, and yeah, so I'm a little bit bummed about that. It's unfortunate, but you know, I guess if I had to trade off having a clean body with no rust and almost perfect paint, the car was repainted 2 years ago, if I had to trade that off for it not being an original manual car, I guess that's, you know, I guess that's a fair trade. But it's just one of those things that, like, in the future, if I ever see another one pop up for sale, an original manual Sedona Red Pearl car, 2-door, no rust, I would probably go buy it and sell this one, just because that little thing, as dumb as it sounds, it does kind of bother me. But anyways, moving on, gonna hit the road. Got a long way to go still. We're over halfway there. I've driven 1,311 miles out of the 2,500, so let's get to it. So I spent day 3 of the trip driving through the rest of Nebraska into Missouri and ending up around Nashville, Tennessee, where I was able to crash at a friend's place for the night. Throughout the entire 3rd day of the trip, I could tell that I was starting to get really sick. My body was getting super hot, but at the same time, I was extremely cold, and I could tell that I was starting to run a fever. I can only imagine this was caused by the constant elevation and climate changes I'd gone through in such a short period of time. By the time I woke up on day 4 to finish out the last 400 miles of the trip, I was just miserable. Realistically, it was probably a terrible idea to continue on, but I knew I only had 6 hours left, so I decided to just power through it. Eventually, I made it home around 6 p.m. on day 4 after a brief stop at my buddy's shop to wash all the salt and grime off the car. I did end up having a really bad fever and was stuck in bed for a few days, but all in all, it was totally worth it. I had set out and done something that I've dreamed of doing my whole life. When you find yourself out on the open road in a car you've dreamed of owning with nothing but time and your own thoughts, it really helps put life into perspective for you. Here I am, thousands of miles away from home, in a 23-year-old car that could potentially leave me stranded at any moment, finding my peace. Without getting too philosophical with you guys, this trip and this experience is the highest level of freedom I've ever felt in my life. And I just want to end this video by saying, if this is something you've wanted to do also, just go for it, and I promise you will not regret that decision. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Feel free to hit that subscribe button because it really does help. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.